to the First Mind podcast. I am your host, Monica Patrice, and we are at episode 11, which is so hard for me to believe. I didn't know where this journey was taking me when I started, but I am super excited with the direction that it is moving in and flowing in. Today, we have a really good episode that kind of corresponds with episode 10. So if you have not listened to episode 10, go ahead and check that episode out. But in episode 10, I interviewed my previous therapist. So you got to hear kind of what to expect in a therapy session with a licensed practitioner. And now I am going to have the pleasure of interviewing a life coach who also, identifies as a spiritual mentor. And her name is Sana. And I'm so pleased to introduce all of you to Sana. So welcome to the First Mind podcast.
Hi, Monica. I'm so excited to be here. I'm
Thank-
so obsessed with you.
And the feeling is so mutual. So Sana and I connected over Instagram. We started following each other. It's probably been a few months. And actually what happened is I had interviewed a guest previously. For listeners, you may remember the sacred sexuality episode that I did. And from there, we connected through that guest. And so we've been following one another ever since. I'm just so excited to hear about your journey and how you got started. I did read a little bit about just how you left, the career world, which is also something that I did. So I'm interested to see just kind of how that all started for you. And that actually, gets us into my first question, which is, how long have you been coaching and what motivated you to pursue a career as a life coach?
Yeah, I love this question because I think if you are wanting to be a coach, it's usually because you naturally fall into being a person that people go to with their trauma, with their issues, and you are naturally good at holding space for other people's deeper issues and giving advice, right? Like you're usually the go-to friend for giving people advice. So, I was actually an HR executive at a tech startup in New York City, and I hit severe burnout, and my body basically shut down. I was on autopilot. I was not my best self. So, my husband and I actually decided that it's best for me to quit my job, and we're going to travel for a year. So, we actually had a whole nomad year, which, we lived in Mexico a while. And that experience really opened my eyes to seeing that money is not everything. And there's so much more to quality of life. And what success means is so much bigger than just hustling and trying to, make as much money as you can, climb the corporate ladder. So when I came back to New York, I actually started my first business, which is Friendship Club. It is a community in New York for friends to meet each other outside of professional networking. But what happened is on the journey of entrepreneurship, I ended up going deep into personal development, inner work, shadow work. And what that led me to was my spiritual awakening. So I was really craving freedom and independence and just feeling like something deep inside was calling me for my attention. So I told my husband, hey, I don't know what the heck is going on with me, but I think I need to figure this out on my own. Can we like get our own apartments? I was terrified. I was so scared to ask him that because I didn't want him to feel like I wanted a separation or a divorce or anything like that because I love him so much. And the love was never the problem. It was a very personal thing that I was going through. And thank God he was like, yeah, babe, that sounds like it could be really fun. Let's try it out. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had this whole thing prepped and planned on like all the reasons why I think this is a good idea, and I didn't have to do any of that. So,
I love this story. And
yeah.
I really like him.
I know, me too. Thank God, right? Open-minded guy, big Aquarius energy, so he's all about like wanting to question societal norms and wanting to do things differently. He's not by the book at all, even though he's like a straight edged accountant when it comes to his job. Like he's so traditional. But when it comes to his like life, he's all about it, right? When we did get our own apartments, I thought I was going on this like really fun journey, but what happened was all of my emotional baggage came to the surface and I was sitting alone in solitude, and for the first time I was feeling my feelings and I wasn't running away from my problems, and I was like, well, if I'm here for a reason. This must be what I have to go through right now. I ended up intuitively doing shadow work and somatic practices and really diving into plant medicine and going on like a shamanic initiation to like heal my deepest, darkest wounds, my ancestral lineage, and really connecting with my ancestors through the plant medicine ceremonies. And that's what like had me embark on the spiritual path. And that journey also really taught me emotional alchemy and how to turn your pain into your purpose, how to turn your hurt into art, like all of these things, your mess into your message, all those things that basically the phoenix rising from the ashes moment.
Mhm.
um, and it gave me my purpose, like of wanting to be the voice for the people who have gone through something similar as I have, who don't have the language for it, who don't know how to get unstuck, how like they're drowning in their trauma, but like they don't have the proper tools and resources for it. So I actually posted a video on TikTok that I'm living apart together with my husband. And that ended up going viral and featured in like New York Times, Good Morning America, Tamron Hall, like all of these huge publications. So what that did was it attracted a lot of people into my DMs asking me for help and assistance. And they're like, I'm also, I lost myself in my relationship. I'm really struggling. How can I find myself again? How can I find like do this without living apart? Or how can I ask my husband also that I want to try having solitude and having alone time and reigniting my spark and like finding my way back home? And that's how I got into coaching. So that was 2 years ago. And I was like, well, if people are coming to me anyway for this, I might as well like make a business for it. And I really took it as like a sign from the universe that this is my next step. It's my calling. Like you don't get press for no reason. You know what I mean? Like it just became such a big story that it really gave me my purpose. And I was like, that's why I went through all that I went through so that I can be here today to help the women who are feeling stuck and lost in their relationships.
I had to do my very best to like self-regulate and not interject because I have like this episode could probably be 3 hours. I have so many questions and so just what an amazing story. And first of all, just the awareness that you felt like you were losing yourself in that relationship, the insight that it didn't have to be a major disruption or fracture in the relationship, but that you could actually go through the process of healing yourself um, while remaining in the relationship. I don't think that a lot of us really understand that that is even a possibility. And having a partner who's willing to kind of take that risk, like that's an amazing like just 180 coming to yourself story that I
Thank
think
you.
listeners will really appreciate. I really want to try to point out as we go through this interview similarities and differences between your work, the interview I had with my therapist, and just in hearing how you arrived to this place. She talked a lot about how, as a child, people were coming to her, at a very early age and kind of like trauma dumping on her and not really knowing what to do with that. And I do think that we go into these kind of helping fields because that is really our nature. That's intrinsically a part of who we are.
Hmm.
So I think it's amazing that you had the courage to leave kind of that hustle and that grind and that conditioning of this is the only way that you can serve, right? And like tapped into yourself. I think that's such a beautiful story, Sana.
Thank you so much. I do think we're all empaths, right? Like, and it's like you're able to tap into other people's emotions, which is why you do become a healer. And I do believe
Yeah.
that therapists are healers too. Like they're just doing it in a traditional way and in a way that makes sense for society. And I think as coaches, we are kind of forging our own path into the unknown. And there's a lot of coaches out there, I'm going to say, that are kind of monetizing on it in a way that is not right. And I had a lot of like resistance to becoming a coach because of that. And I didn't want to have people think like I'm someone who just is doing it because everybody else is doing it. And I really didn't post that I was a coach, and I was doing it on the side, hiding for a while until I was like, I think I'm ready.
Yeah, that I think that's the stage that I'm in now. But even as you say that, I'm thinking about one of the things that I value when I'm seeking support is that the human I'm seeking support from has also gone through a journey, right? And that they also have sought support and help and have some sort of, like person that they go to for guidance as well. I've done both therapy and coaching, and I've also been a licensed counselor and worked as a coach. So I've been on both ends of the spectrum in both ways. I find therapy to be useful when you have a quality therapist for the treatment of something, like, really going
Yeah.
deep diving. For me, coaching in my life has been more about the application once I've already healed, kind of like my therapist helped me discover my wings, but my coach helped me learn how to use them. That's the way
Ooh.
I see it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think both are necessary,
Yeah.
honestly. So I think if you're just starting off on a self-discovery journey, I think therapy is a great place to start because you don't know your past. You may not have the right ways to connect the dots between everything that you went through, or why are you going through the issues that you're going through now. Therapy can help you access your past. What I
Yes.
think coaches do is helps you, okay, now that you understand your past, how can we implement all of that and put it into practice so that you are functioning at your full potential in your everyday life?
Yes. I agree. I agree. I think that's a good way to put it. So, how do you approach coaching and what would a potential client expect in a first session?
Okay, so usually on the first session, I love to tap into their human design and their astrology. So I bring a lot of like your personality tests into it too, like your anagram and things like that. Because for me, what that does is it gives me a framework to work with.
Mhm.
And a lot of times people aren't like de- defined by that. But what it does for me is makes me understand like, okay, what are the expectations of this person's personality, of like who they can be or what they can easily go into. For instance, like, if you're coming from corporate America and you're looking to find your next steps, if you're a generator or if you're a manifesting generator or a projector or a reflector, like each of those things can lead you to an easier path. You don't
Mm.
have to follow it, but it just helps with like understanding how your body functions and your energy levels and like what would make sense for you. So I try to do like an assessment on that on my first session, understanding their background. But in the session, I'll ask them, where are they struggling the most? Where are they seeing the patterns in their life? And where do they hope to be? And like as an empath and as a healer, what I'm able to do is see and feel, like using my spiritual gifts, on what is actually blocking them. Where's the root of that coming from? And I'll usually ask them about their relationship with their parents or their caregivers or what even their grandparents went through, because a lot of times what we carry is not even ours, it's from like our lineage. So I really try to just, the first session is gain a picture of your story. And then from there, we start to tackle on, okay, where are the parts that you want to focus on? And we do a deep dive into those areas.
Thank you for explaining that. What's an ideal client for you?
Yeah, I think the fascinating thing about coaching versus therapy is that you usually attract people that are currently going through something that you have gone through.
Mhm.
And I think the universe does it that way because we're here to serve our soul clients that are here who are struggling with almost the exact thing that maybe I have faced. Or maybe it's because
Mhm.
the content that I create, I'm always thinking about like, what did a past version of me need to hear? And that's what I'm posting. And maybe that's why I'm attracting what I'm attracting. Who really knows? It's either magic or reality. But um so for me, I usually attract people who are at that point in life where they're at that crossroads. Should I stay or should I go in my relationship? Should I stay or should I go in my job? Should I stay or should I go in where I'm living right now in life? Like they're being called, like they want to travel or they want to explore or they're looking to go more inwards and access their soul, their emotions, unpack their emotional baggage. So for me, it's usually they're at that in between place. They just need a little bit of guidance to get clarity on if I go down this road, what is that going to look like? Or if I go down that road, what is that going to look like? Ultimately, they make their decision for themselves using their intuition and their own gut.
That's a good way to put it. And for listeners, I think what I would add is just that on any journey, like let's say that you're on a health journey, right? There may, you're going to get to your destination. Like we're all going to get to our destination, right? Like we came here for a mission. Hopefully, we receive the tools that we need to complete the mission and we make it to the end. Um, but what a coach can do, just like a coach in any physical activity, they can help you get to the mission faster. Like the guy, they can give you, you may have experience just when you share a story, even in your personal life with a friend, and your friend has gone through maybe a similar struggle, and then you have this aha moment where you understand that you're not alone in the world. Like that's a big epiphany in and of itself, is just understanding that I'm not the only person who's experiencing life in this way. So a coach can help just validate your experience and also give you kind of that guidance to get to the mission a little bit faster.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've done a lot of work in your own personal life to get to your mission, which is allowing you to help so many people. So I love how that all came together. You talked a little bit about somatic healing. You talked about plant medicine. So I wanted you to have an opportunity to tell listeners kind of how you incorporate somatics and psychedelics and shadow work and integration, all of that into your practice.
Yeah, sure. So I only recommend plant medicine for people who may have severe trauma that they can't access and remember. So, what plant medicine does is it allows you to tap into your own subconscious and it reminds you, or it may even allow you to tap into connecting with your ancestors, right? So you're literally able to have a conversation with people that may no longer be with you or aren't in the same room with you. So energetically, it activates the brain waves in our brain. So it allows us to tap into other portals and you're able to connect with other earthly beings that may be with us energetically, but not physically. This may sound a little too woo woo for a lot of people,
It
but
doesn't to me. I am only recently starting to add plant medicine into my own life. So it doesn't sound like that to me, but for listeners who aren't experienced, when you talk about plant medicine, what are you speaking about? Like I've been looking at ayahuasca retreats and things of that nature. What are you specifically talking about?
psilocybin. So, like
Okay.
magic mushrooms is what I
Okay.
used.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, just
Okay.
these chocolates that are 2 grams. I wouldn't recommend more than that. You don't need more than that. If you're just starting off, I would recommend maybe even half a gram just to see how your body reacts based on your own energy levels and I would go add from there if needed. So for me, what it did was allowed me to again connect with my ancestors, understand the whole colonialism of it all and understand like how little freedom the woman in my family had. And I remember asking them, "Hey, I'm thinking about being child free. Like I don't know why I'm not feeling called to have children. Can you please give me some guidance?" And they really do, I don't know if it's like real or if it's like my subconscious just like doing it, or my nervous system trying to like regulate itself so I'm receiving these like messages. So like the science behind it is still being very actively worked on, which is incredible, but it's still like really far from knowing exactly what goes on a journey. But I think more importantly, what it did for me is, even if it's just all in my own head, it gave me permission to choose what I want and like make a decision based on like me and not based on what society wants from me, what my parents want from me, what even my husband wants. Truly, like it allowed me to detach completely from all external voices and tap deeply within my own voice, like beyond the
Mhm.
anxiety, beyond the depression, beyond the mental health issues that I've had for years and years and years. And it truly helped me heal my depression, which I am forever grateful for, because I was just always confused, always feeling like I don't fit in or I don't belong, and feeling like I don't know who I am. And then what plant medicine allowed me to do is like just gave me permission to listen to myself with conviction, with devotion, with like finding my truth, which just like really empowered me to just stand more firmly in who I am and being different. And it's okay to not want kids. And it's okay to tell my parents, like, hey, this is a choice I'm making. Like, I'm the first woman in my entire lineage that even has a choice. Like, even my mom and my sister didn't have a choice. Like, they had kids because they're expected to. And I am going to run with that choice as far as I can.
Yeah,
um,
yeah. Um, it is interesting the parallels between the two. I'm a firm believer that trauma lives in the body. So even though you're having, these conscious experiences, if you will, I think it's natural for our brain and our body to try to repress some things and bury them as deeply as possible so that they're not constantly disrupting our everyday life. But over time that does catch up in your body. I think it creates disease in your body, even when we talk about extremes. So when we're, as Sana is explaining this plant medicine, that to me is kind of what the purpose is. It's to unlock some of those deeper things that you've probably been repressing that you're not even consciously aware of. And that is something that, I was able to achieve through EMDR therapy. I talked in the last episode about one of the memories, the cognitions that came up through that therapy was I had children young, and I was holding my newborn firstborn child. I have two daughters. And I looked at her and I said, I'm going to love you, but I'm not going to love you too much, because what if you die? Like, what if something happens to you or something? So my
wow.
therapist was able to help me understand that that's a cognition from another time. Like that probably could have came from slavery. That could have, like, when you would, because my child was healthy. There was no reason for me to have that thought. And she was saying how that could have been a conditioning from the past where your child could die in childbirth, or it could be sold off or somehow separated from you. And you had this anxiety that was, kind of just passed down through our lineage of, yeah, you love your children, but you kind of also have an emotional avoidance from your children, because what if you're separated from your, what if something tragic happens? So it's interesting, because what I would say is you don't realize how those unconscious beliefs and thoughts are really directing your life because you're not aware of them. So it sounds like you've
Exactly.
been able to tap into helping people kind of unlock those conscious or unconscious memories so that they can be able to more guide themselves in a way that is informed by their truth, as opposed to like this trauma.
Exactly. And that's what shadow work and somatics can do too. So like I love that you said that EMDR was able to do that for you, because if, I think that everybody's different and you just have to find what works for you. I'm so glad you had a therapist that was familiar with like past lives, ancestral things, and having a woman of color as your therapist also helps a lot because there's so much cultural nuance to all of this. And what regular talk therapy does, what happened with me was I had like a white woman and she was like, "Oh, why can't you just like choose what you want? Like, why do you let your parents control what you're thinking or saying?" And I was like, "Girl, like, I'm gonna get like shunned from society if I like bring this to my parents." Like, and it's just like you have to be really selective of like even coaches. This is why I said earlier, like, you just have to choose the people that resonate with you and not just pick anyone and everyone. And really tap into your own intuition and gut and see how it feels when you're talking to a potential therapist or a coach. But yeah, somatics and shadow work also are incredible tools for like moving the energy in your body because it is stored in there. So, you know, like yin yoga, just like kundalini yoga, like awakening your shakti, like all these somatic movements that we do, like hip thrusting, it opens up that space so that your emotion can like wake up and start to rev up, and then it comes into your mind where you remember things that you may have been really pushing down deep into your subconscious because you're not ready to feel it or heal it.
Yeah, yeah. And again, echoing from the last interview, she talked about the same thing about the cultural competency, and you want to make sure you find somebody who you connect with in that way. And no offense at all to white therapists, but we all are aware that there is a privilege that comes with, you know, being outside of a minority culture, being white. And so sometimes it's hard to tap into or understand or connect with people who don't come from that same place of privilege. So when you say, you know, in my family, that will not be acceptable, like that's a real truth for you, whereas in somebody else's family that may not be the truth. So absolutely, I think it's important when we talk about finding a coach or a therapist that you find somebody who is in alignment with what, you know, your beliefs are. That's very true. So, what would you say to somebody who is struggling but is apprehensive about trying life coaching or mentoring?
I think that it's so natural to be a little worried and scared because of the reputation that a lot of coaches have today. I think that it's so important to make sure that they come off authentic, where they're walking the talk. They're not just telling you what everybody else is saying. Their messaging feels genuine. Their messaging is different than what everybody else is putting out there. It could be similar because we're all human and, you know, we're all going through a similar experience through our evolution. But as long as you feel through their, not only their content, through their offerings, like how are they really putting together their frameworks? Like, are they just copying other people or are they actually speaking from their lived experience? I think coaching as a therapist, you can learn what you need to learn and get licensed, and they're like taught by industry professionals. So they don't need to have the lived experience in order to help others. But as coaches, because the industry is so not regulated and it's like free fall and easy to get into, lived experience, I would say, is the most important. Are they living the lifestyle that you want? Are they showing you that they are going through vulnerable situations and how are they navigating those in real time? Or are they just painting a pretty picture of how perfect their life is? Because that's not real life. Like, there's no way, no matter how much healing you do, no matter how many plant medicine ceremonies you go on, no matter what you do, your life is never going to be perfect. And that's the point, because we're here to enjoy the human experience, which is all about the full spectrum from good to bad to this and that, as above, so below, like all of it. So, yeah, I just want to make sure that if you are looking for a coach, make sure you're choosing someone that is vulnerable, is authentic, feels real, and they're willing to have a conversation with you before charging you anything at all. I always offer a free coaching call first and foremost because I want to make sure it's a good fit for both of us. Like for me too. Like for it's such a intimate experience to be able to go deeper with someone in that way. So I just want to make sure that it's an equal energy exchange. You're feeling comfortable, you're feeling safe. Safe is the most important thing. If any part of you isn't feeling safe with the person that you're speaking with, then those are some really big red flags that are coming up from your nervous system that is either there to tell you that you may have a block within you looking for safety between you and others, and or that it's your body signaling. So just really get curious about your own feelings. That's why therapy is also helpful, because it helps you connect with your own emotions so that you understand your emotions before you start coaching.
Yeah. And I would say, even as, someone who was once licensed, I would still say that even in having a master's degree and been educated in different theories and modalities, like to me, it's like, anything else that you would study. If you study medicine, the books, can only take you so far, but the actual application and living and, actually doing the things is what really informs you the most to me. So I feel like I worked as a licensed counselor for almost 20 years.
Wow.
I don't feel like I was nearly as effective as I am now, because I went through my own journey, my own awakening, my own like now I just feel like I have way more information because I had a lived experience. So I think what you said is so important, in that yes, people can be well studied, but there also has to be an element of them that has lived and gone through some things and been in the trenches, is how I put it, so that they, have some place of reference to help support you through what you're going through. I think that's huge. You also mentioned, and I think this is important for listeners to understand about the coaching field, it's not regulated. So anybody can wake up and decide that they're going to be a coach, but you want to make sure that you're aligning with somebody who isn't just in it to make money, like that this is actually something that
Yeah.
they're being called to do.
Yeah, and you feel that, right? That you'll feel that genuine connection to their work when are they just selling pre-made course content, and are is their membership just, or do they not even have a membership and they're just doing that? I think the best coaches are the ones that are by your side. The guide on the side helping you one-on-one or in a small intimate group setting. And you may have to pay a little bit for that, but, I think it's worth it
Or
because
a
their
lot of it.
course.
It might be a lot. Like
Yeah,
I really try to get clients to understand that there's a lot of things that we pay for. It really is perspective, right? There's a lot of things that I'll just say for myself that I paid for prior to um getting therapy, getting coaching, that were about, let's say, my external, right? Like I pay
mhm,
lots of money for my hair. I pay lots of money, to keep my nails done, to have, whatever clothes that I want to wear. And not to say that everybody's doing that, but there are things that I'm willing to pay for on my outer, my exterior, but
so
nothing to
true.
do with my interior. And I think
Mm,
sometimes when we talk about like paying a coach or paying a therapist, it's like, oh, like I don't have the money for that. That's too much. But it really is about, your perspective. Like, what are you willing to sacrifice so that you can begin a journey of healing? Like, that's,
yeah,
the way I see it. And you come to it when you're ready to come to it. There were times in my life where this was not an interest. I didn't want to heal. Like, I
same.
spent a lot of time, like, really, cosplaying my self-worth and pretending that, I had it together, and I was not interested in
Yeah.
anybody coming along and popping my bubble and saying, "No, you really don't have it together."
Oh
So,
my god, same. So relatable. And I agree. And I think that, like, when the student is ready, the teacher appears too. I'm
absolutely.
such a big believer in that. Like, don't think that you need it just because your friends are doing it or everyone around you is doing it if you're not feeling the intuitive pull yourself to be like, I'm ready for some help.
Yeah, for sure. And I compared a lot to the physical journey, because I think people, that's a more tangible thing that people can kind of put a finger on is like, but if you're, trying to get your physical body
Mhm.
together, you might go take a class, an aerobics class, a yoga class. You might even, you know, get a personal trainer. Like, and that is somebody who you're going to work with one on one. So coaching, life coaching to me is exactly that. It is I am going to get a personal trainer, but this
Yeah.
is to help work on the inside and not the outside.
I love that you say that because I call it a spiritual gym. Where it's
Yeah.
like, you're doing the work, you're investing in yourself to become a more evolved, more in tune, tapped in version of you, connected to your mind, body, and soul. Like, it's inner work that, even though it doesn't directly affect your external, it does. Like, you're showing up with more confidence, you're showing up with more empathy, you're showing up with so much more devotion to love, to truth, to just being of service to others as like a decent human being, because you are going through the ring of the fire and understanding humanity on such a deeper level.
Yes. And I think the more in alignment you can get with your soul's purpose, the happier you are.
Yeah.
And for me, I really just started to understand that everything that I'm experiencing for my greater good. So
Hmm.
that's a total shift in my whole paradigm. Like, so now, even when something that other people would deem negative happens to me, I'm like, I don't, that was what was supposed to happen. Like, I don't have the same
Yes.
anxiety about life because I'm like,
Mm.
all of this is happening because this is what is supposed to happen.
100%. And it makes you more grounded too as a human being, where you're not like, again, I love that you said that you are a version of you that thought your life was perfect and you didn't want anyone to burst your bubble, because that is what happens when you're not willing to look behind the veil. So then you project a lot onto others. You're judging others more. You are showing up in a way that is high and mighty. It's harder for you to connect authentically with people in that space. So what this journey does, it not only like helps you be of service and step into your purpose, but also just like be a better friend, be a better wife, be a better partner, be a better parent. Like, you're able to just, because you can only meet people as deeply as you've met yourself. So if you're willing to meet yourself a little deeper, you can access a deeper connection in your relationships with others, which is why I did the journey, right? Because I wanted to go deeper with my husband. And I was like, well, I don't want this surface level relationship. I don't want us to just sit here and watch TV and talk about pop culture or our friends and this and that. I want to know your soul. Like, I want to know like your heart. Like, I want to know everything, right? Like, I want to go like on a cosmic journey of love with my man. So like,
Oh.
I couldn't do that until I was willing to like go on that cosmic journey with my own self, my inner child, my past selves, and really connect and understand my own self on a deeply intimate level so that I can unlock that intimacy with my man.
And so, because we do have a little bit of time, I do want to kind of dive into a little bit further about this your marriage and this living, arrangement that you have, because I find that I am so intrigued by this. So
It's my
so
favorite.
yeah, so tell us a little bit about how long have you been living apart, and kind of what that looks like, and how has that deepened your relationship?
Okay, so we were married for 6.5 years in a very traditional marriage, right? Like, living together, he's the breadwinner, I'm the taking care of the house, cooking, cleaning, all of the things. What happened was, I think I hit like wife burnout, where I was just like taking care of everything. And I felt like it was limiting my time and energy to focus on my own like projects and stuff too. So when we did live apart, like, yes, I went on a huge spiritual journey, but every weekend we hung out and I made sure to like really take in everything that I was learning about myself and sharing who I am on a deeper level with him. And that gave him permission to go deeper too, right? Like, the more I was learning to hold space for myself, the more I was able to hold space for him and be like, well, like, where are you at? Like, what's your relationship like with your parents? Or like, what are some dreams that you have that you never got to fulfill? Or like, what is like, we were just able to have such deeper conversations about like more than just surface level husband, wife, roommates, living stuff. So we actually only lived apart for 8 months. And then when we moved to LA, we moved back in together. And the biggest shift that we saw was that instead of thinking that we have to spend every single waking moment together like we did before, we now understand how important it is to have space, physical space apart, so that not only can you process your own emotions easier and better instead of like talking about it all the time. Like now, if we get into a fight, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go process this real quick. I'll come back with more clarity because your partner deserves to understand where you're coming from, not just receive your reaction, but actually a conversation about what you're feeling. So, just like emotional maturity has been huge for me personally. And what happened with him is that now he understands that I don't operate the same way he does. I'm neurodivergent. Like, I'm the type of person who just like, I have a slower processing system, you know? So, like, we are able to just really hold space for each other in the way that works for the other person. Like,
Mm.
not just come at it from a place of expectations and assumptions, but more genuine curiosity before we get triggered or before we take things offensively. And even when we do, like understanding that trigger could be an invitation into a deeper wound that we have within our own self, not necessarily like they're not the reason for it. They're actually just opening it so that you can go deeper into your own healing. So like using each other as a mirror to have a deeper evolution into our own personal growth. Like we didn't have any of that before we lived apart. Like we were like blaming each other for everything. We were so bitter, we were so resentful. And now we just take accountability and we're like, oh, okay, I'm triggered. I'm going to go take care of this. And then come back and be like, well, actually, I still feel this way. And then you have that conversation with clarity instead of a reaction.
Sana, that is so good. Like, I am curious to know. I know that you primarily work with women. Are you planning to step into the realm of relationship coaching? Would that be
Yeah.
something that the two of you would even be interested in doing together? It just sounds like you work well together and you have such a good understanding of like relationship dynamics.
Yeah, that's my dream, right? My dream is to make sure that I am able to make enough money so that one day he can quit his job and we can start hosting couples retreats where we're really holding space for people to like understand what it looks like to go one layer deeper together and understand not everything has to be so serious and implementing more fun, more play, more joy into your relationship. Like that has been monumental for us where we are like, okay, I'm responsible for me, you're responsible for you. And when we're together, we like prioritize play. We prioritize like we're choosing to be together because it's fun, not because like of anything else, right? Like we could be alone and be happy, but like why have your time together be miserable and just boring? Like if we're going to be together, we're going to make it the best fucking life of our possible ever. Otherwise, like we're better off alone working on our purpose, thriving in our businesses and doing our own thing.
I'm gonna work on finding a man so that I can come to your couples retreat.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I would
I
love to. Like I think it would be so powerful. And
I
like
do
I know that
too.
the world
I
needs
think
it.
there's so many. Oh, like I think about my own parents and just there's so many people who probably get divorced because they
So
don't
many.
know that this is an opportunity that could even be available to them, you
Yeah.
know? And then I think what even happens with that is you get divorced and you partner with another person, but you still don't feel that satisfaction or that because you don't have the tools to,
Yeah.
so you just end up repeating that pattern until you know, figure it out. So that's yeah, I'm excited for you now. I know that even just with this conversation, you have touched somebody, you have transformed, kind of planted a seed today, even in just this interview. Because it's informing me of things, so that's huge. But I am so excited to see how this journey expands and where all it takes you.
Thank you so much. That means a
Yeah.
lot coming from you because your content has like helped me in some of my really low moments of like reminding myself that you come first. Like, even if you're a wife, even if you're a partner, like your happiness has to come first, and you have to fall so in love with yourself so that you attract that, right? Like that's what this whole journey is about, is how we feel within is what we experience in our external reality. So like anytime I'm feeling any sort of way, your content always brings me right back to that center and like reminds me of how freaking amazing women are and how beautiful men are and how gorgeous love is.
I appreciate you saying that. That means a lot to me too. Yeah, I am. I love this. I love connecting with other humans who are doing this kind of work. I think um, you know, the world needs us. Like right now is a crucial time. I think it's a huge shift in the energy and in people's consciousness. And I think as many healers as we can have, like let's do it. Let's do this work and let's help guide
Agreed.
people and help people get to their next level, because then those people will help somebody else get to their next level. And to me, that is what this journey is about. So
And we need to reach what, 8 billion people? Like we've got a lot of people to help. Like we need all hands on deck, guys. If you're feeling the call, you're feeling the pull. Like
yes, yes. And if you're
we need
feeling the call and you're stuck and you don't know where to go, sounds like Sana might be the person who could help you get to that next level, so that you can figure out where can you be of service? What can you do? How can you I love the way you said turn your mess into your message. Yeah. I'm super excited for you and for all the people who are going to get to connect with you as a result of this. So to wrap up, I just wanted you to actually let our listeners know how they can connect with you. What are some things maybe that you have coming up that you would want them to know about?
Yeah, thank you so much for the platform to do that. So,
Yeah.
I do have a YouTube channel where I post videos twice a week, which is mostly just channeled straight from my source consciousness based on whatever wants to come through me, a lot about spirituality and energy healing and things like that. So, that's Sana Akhand, Sana_Akhand. And then my website is sanaakhand.com, where if you do want to work with me, I do have one on one mentorship. But I also am launching Shakti Society, which is a 12-month program to journey deeper into the sacred feminine, balancing your energies within, and how to create a personal brand from your healing journey so that you can start connecting authentically with your soul family and your soul clients and naturally fall into that space like I did. It just like fell into my lap, and I want more women to feel that authentic connection. And yeah, and my Instagram, Sana Akhand. If you guys have any questions, DM me. I'd love to chat with you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for coming to the First Mind podcast and sharing your gifts with us. I'm so happy that I got to put a face with all of the beautiful energy that you emit into the world every day. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Thank
Me
you.
too. Thank you.
So, listeners, if you didn't get to tap into that last episode, I think the two episodes 10 and 11 are a good episodes to help you maybe understand the difference between what a therapist can offer and what a life coach can offer, and help inform any decision you have about whether you want to utilize either of those to get support. So if you have questions, feel free to email me or DM me and I will try to answer those. And yeah, until next time, let's all heal. All right, take care. Bye.
I